It's been 25 years since the Democratic Alliance was formed, but the party is still battling the perception that it is a whites-only organization. Established on the 24th of June 2000 through a merger between the Democratic Party and the then New National Party, the DA has been South Africa's main opposition and is now part of the Government of National Unity. But it's still struggling with transformation. The departure of several high-profile black leaders, including Mmusi Maimane and Herman Mashaba, raising tough questions about its ability to reflect South Africa's diversity. So can the DA lead without real transformation? Let's unpack the story with Dr. Harlan Cloete, political analyst at the Center for Gender and Africa Studies at the University of the Free State. Dr. Cloete, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm not sure that the DA would agree with it being called a white party. Helen Zille, during the elections last year, claimed that the DA is the only political party that has an equal 30% split along race lines.
Good afternoon, Michelle. Good afternoon to the viewers. Look, I think that the DA struggles with that perception. If you ask Helen Zille, she often goes on platforms and states that the DA is the most non-racial party. If you ask those that have left the DA, they paint a different picture. That says that the DA is unwelcoming to those that hold different opinions of it, and that it remains a largely white-controlled party. That is what those that have left say. If you read what Mmusi Maimane says, if you look at Patricia de Lille, so the DA struggles with that perception that it may look multiracial or non-racial. But if you ask those that have been on the inside, lately Liam Jacobs, then it paints a picture of a party still very trapped in white is right.
Yeah, I mean, and the list doesn't end there, right, with Mmusi Maimane or Herman Mashaba. There's Lindiwe Mazibuko, Phumzile Van Dam, really up-and-coming young black political minds who stood their ground in the midst of political contestation among the other parties, the ANC, for example. And they left not under a cloud, but they certainly didn't leave on good terms.
Yeah, definitely. You know, if you look at, like I said, if you look at how people, it looks like that there's a ceiling within the DA. That you will remember when Mmusi Maimane left, I think Helen Zille was reported to saying that this experiment failed. It didn't quite work out. And there were differences in, sometimes ideological differences when it comes to economic empowerment, when it comes to affirmative action. You know, those are the contentious issues that the DA is not as firm on it as it should be. And if you read what people are saying, it's a completely different experience. So the party is still struggling 25 years since its formation. I've had the privilege to observe this over the last 25 years, the merger of the DP with a New National Party. The New National Party is no more. And the DA has somehow survived 2 decades, more than 2 decades, and it finds itself today part of government, which I think it speaks about an evolution of the party from Tony Leon to Helen Zille and now to John Steenhuisen. But if you read Tony Leon's latest book, it would appear that Helen Zille is still the de facto leader, and she sets the tone within the party.
Mm. I mean, we know that the Democratic Alliance, for example, is challenging the constitutionality of the Employment Equity Amendment Act, just as sort of one example of the DA's take on transformation, right? The party sees transformation as equal opportunities for all based on your performance, based on your qualifications. Of course, we know that's not as easy in a country that is the most unequal in the world, and where generational wealth plays such a pivotal role, particularly in the lives of white South Africans.
No, exactly that. If you look at the statistics, if you look at black people in this country for the last 25 years, 30 years, have just been playing catch up. If you look at the inequality, we talk about black poverty. In the majority, there's black people that are poor. It is, if you talk about youth unemployment, it is black young graduates that are unemployed. And that gulf just seems to be widening. So the DA is struggling, I think, to articulate that it is not as easy to saying, open the gates and everybody's equal. There has been a lot of bridges. There's a lot of bridges that still needs to be crossed for us to be talking about an equal society. I think that is on a normative level what we are striving towards, this equal society and this equal opportunity society. And so the DA is struggling, I think, in messaging that it has a far better track record within the Western Cape, where they've been in government for the last 15 years. That cannot be denied. And I think the future, where it finds itself being part of government, but also opposing government, I think that is going to play out, I think, better within the next 18 months as we prepare for local government elections.
The DA obviously sees transformation as, or broad-based economic empowerment as something that has failed, and they want to move away from race-based policies. That really is the point of how the DA sees transformation unfolding. Is it a difficult thing to deny that broad-based black economic empowerment, Dr. Cloete, has been successful only for a handful of black South Africans?
I think it is elitist. I would agree with the DA there. If you look at black economic empowerment, it has failed in terms of that first B, broad-based black economic empowerment. It has enriched an elite, and that is not sustainable. But the DA has failed, I think, to put forward a model that speaks to inclusive economic growth. And how do we make sure that we turn the economic tables? If you walk in any town in this town, if you look at in the industry or the area where I am in the Cape Winelands, less than 1% of the land is in black hands when it talks about the wine growing regions. And so it has not really, I think, convinced South Africans of an alternative. Yes, black economic empowerment, the implementation of BEE have failed. But I think at the fundamental level, at the philosophical level, we need to be working towards a more inclusive society. If you read the works of, for example, Professor Sampieter Blanche, who wrote a very seminal book, Lost in Transformation, he listed 10 areas, and he says, we have not fully addressed the economic model that we have here. The economic model is a perpetuation of what we've had, where this alliance between capital and the elites. And so this elitist society that we have, where the middle class seems to benefit the most from this new South Africa, that has to be addressed.
I mean, I couldn't help but notice this morning during the birthday celebrations, the anniversary celebrations, that even the cake was vanilla, Dr. Cloete. It's really difficult to make the race argument on behalf of the DA, where black leaders simply cannot survive, not unless they're in the background.
I think that is the point that a lot of them are making, that there's a ceiling that you can't go through. I think Musi, like Harlan Cloete said, the Musi Maimane experiment failed. And I'm not quite sure if the DA is ready for a black leader within the next few years. It's part of the government of national unity. And it largely, I think, in my view, my observation, represents not necessarily the aspirations of the majority or the working class or the poor, but it represents the interests of the markets, of capital. And in a big way, if you look at read Tony Leon's analysis, it's Helen Zille has almost taken the party back to the lager.
So what's it going to take for the DA to move with the times, to get away from governing well where it does, which we know that is true in the Western Cape, where the DA does govern? For many people, they will say that service delivery is better comparatively. The numbers tell the same story from the Auditor General. But what's it going to take for the DA to become more representative, particularly in the upper echelons of its leadership, and to move from a provincial government, it's now in a government of national unity, but perhaps into a majority government?
I think it's a societal issue. You know, if you look at this weekend, you know, South Africa is very sports obsessed. But it is still so that white get away with more than black people could. If I use the example now of the Springboks, you know, if you look at Rassie Erasmus's tenure, and before him it was Alistair Coetzee, the conditions were different. The media, in particular society, it seems to be softer when it comes to white people when they are in charge. Now, truly the non-racial project is under threat. If you look at the Western Cape in terms of the demographics, you have a white male mayor and you have a white male premier. And an insider told me the other day in the DA, says, in the DA, if you want to go up the ranks, you must be English speaking and you must be white male. That perception is still very much there, that it is not a party that is welcoming to black people that speak their mind and who are aspirational as well. And so you need to be satisfied with being a deputy, for example. Deputy is where you can sit, but as soon as you break through that and have aspirations, then the culture in the party is, and I'm not part of the party, but that's what the insider tells me, the culture is you must know your place. And so you need to know your place, and you know who is really in charge here. And so it is going to take a lot, I think. I think the DA, 25 years, if it looks back at its track record of where it comes from or where it is to now, I think it will be reasonably happy. As part of government, it has now an opportunity to form part of national government. It has a solid track record within the Western Cape. I think that track record or that governance hegemony is under threat by the NCC, the National Coloured People's Congress. It's under threat by the PA, who are riding on this narrative that coloured people are only being used by the DA to suit their own narrow needs. That is the narrative that they're saying. And the latest defection, Liam Jacobs, almost confirms that narrative. And so I think the DA will have to consolidate its base if it wants to continue working within the Western Cape or governing the Western Cape, then it will have to work hard. But, you know, the DA has got an excellent blue machine that they know how to win elections and they know how to convince the electorate. That's how the National Party, new National Party, is better the devil you know than the one you don't. So it's going to be an interesting 18 months to see, can the DA hold on to its power already at local government? There's 30 municipalities in the Western Cape, of which 15 are run by a coalition, where the DA don't control outright. And I think that number is going to increase with the 2026 elections. Because you have also a resurgence, I think, of almost coloured nationalism, for lack of a better word, where coloured people, the narrative of the PA and the NCC of Fadil Adams is that coloured people are only being used by the DA to serve their narrow interest of business and of the elites.
Yeah, so you can preach transformation, right? You can cite diversification numbers, 33%, 33%, 33%. But the point you've just made about Alan Winde as Western Cape Premier, Jordan Hill-Lewis as Cape Town Mayor, Helen Ziller as the federal chair and de facto leader, and then official leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen, it's a difficult argument to make when you look at those top four.
They say English speaking, white and male, and then you tick all the right boxes within the DA. That's what an insider tells me. And if you look at around you, it seems that to be true, is that the English speaking within the DA, they really control.
Absolutely. Dr. Harlan Cloete, let me thank you for your time this afternoon, political analyst at the Center for Gender and Africa Studies at the University of the Free State, as we reflect on 25 years of the Democratic Alliance.